This is a response to Napalm's 2 cents on what's destroying YouTube, and more specifically the atheist community thereof. His video is linked in the description. I think Napalm's correct in his criticism of YouTube's algorithm, which has run off providers of various shorts and animations, while media of short lengths are thriving in formats like Vine and Twitter. My own extension of that opinion is that YouTube's frequent format adjustments to make changes for which users never asked and therefore disapprove has created frustrations from its user base. If there were scores of people begging YouTube to adopt an all-white, eye-stabbingly bright background, which they did a couple of years ago, I didn't hear them. And maybe I just wasn't privy to the stampede of people outside of YouTube's headquarters demanding an algorithm to decide what their users like to see and prioritize the algorithm's choices over that which we personally make as subscribers. Perhaps I wasn't invited to the big protest where millions of users threatened to boycott YouTube if it failed to sate their demand for Google Plus integration. To me, it seems the website's prominent business model has been to do what its internal intelligence says will yield the greatest profits rather than to satisfy its users and therefore continue to grow its consumer base with satisfied users. I'd say that's led to problems with YouTube's overall quality to this day, but those kinds of decisions are well above my pay grade to make, so here I am, not working in Google's front office. Now, regarding the atheist community's destruction and Napalm's comments, his title and content ask, was there really anything to destroy in the first place? I consider that a fair question. Now, he criticizes a community being formed out of a single issue, such as not believing in God. This is a primary complaint from those who detest the term YouTube atheist community. I have no problem with that term for reasons I've stated before, but perhaps they bear repeating. Any actual community on this planet only needs one thing to unite it. The typical uniting force is proximity. I live in a community of people. My neighbors chose to buy or rent homes in the same place that I did. And that's it. That's the only thing we need to have in common. We all wound up in the same place. Whether we were born here or chose to move here, it doesn't mean that we have to agree on anything else out of the millions of issues we could discuss. I could hold a contrary opinion to every single one of my neighbors about every possible issue, and as long as we still agree to continue on living in this same place, we're still a community. We still indirectly affect one another and depend on one another, and there's no requirement for us to walk in lockstep on multiple issues just because of that. We can be friendly or abrasive with one another. We're also allowed to talk about anything we want to. We aren't required to only discuss living in the place that we do just because that's the only thing that truly unites us. It's not a club, it's a community, which is why I consider that a fitting term for the folks who have come on YouTube to discuss their atheism with anyone who will listen. Napalm went on to chastise this community's founding members as a fraud, a hack, and a racist. I don't see why those founding members are relevant today. They were just the first people to become popular for discussing the issue of atheism on this website, and nothing more. Napalm says they set the tempo for all those who came after, but what's that even mean? When I upload atheistic content here, there isn't a moment's consideration for some of the model that Brett Keane or Thunderfoot put in place years ago. For the same reasons, I'm not interested in political activists who appeal to intentions of founding fathers rather than appealing to what's logical, relevant, and best for us right now. The fact that several founding fathers of the United States owned slaves doesn't require me as a U.S. resident to follow in their footsteps. I don't care what Thomas Jefferson or George Washington wanted this country to become. They don't live here anymore. I also don't care how early YouTube atheists conducted themselves or what kind of people they are or what kind of people they were. They don't determine how I conduct my channel or how this community behaves today. It is what we choose to make of it. So, is this community a victim of ongoing destruction? I don't think so. I think people's perceptions of what the community does for them changes over time, and they often interpret that as destruction. This community offers acceptance to non-believers who live in highly religious regions and embraces them for who they are. That's especially inviting to people who are new to atheism and have questions, concerns, or fears, but also appeals to people who've been closeted about their non-belief for a long time because they didn't want to be shunned by local physical communities for speaking out. There are plenty of options for someone who newly converts to a popular religion in their area, but resources for those who deconvert are limited, and this pocket of YouTube does that for an unquantified number of people on a daily basis. I regularly receive expressions of appreciation from people for talking about non-belief on this website in a way that has allowed them to feel better about themselves, or for finding the words to express how they feel about it. My channel regularly provides those things for people, and fewer than half of my videos actually discuss atheism. This community also gives people a marketplace for their ideas, thoughts, philosophies, and to have them challenged or expanded. It can boost our confidence or put our egos in check through a network of diverse, though loosely structured peer review. So if there's so much good here, then what's all this communal destruction talk about? Well, Napalm was right when alluding to this community scaring off most religious users on which it used to prey. That's prey with an E. I take great comfort in knowing that as soon as someone crops up on the internet condemning people to hellfire for who they love or insisting they feel deep guilt for not complying with the ancient Middle Eastern social norms, that dozens of people like me are waiting to argue them into the ground. Some people have been around long enough and heard enough arguments and subscribe to too many people who discuss atheism exclusively, so they get bored with the topic and leave. Some content providers don't branch out, say what they have to say, and then vanish. And that's fine. They all got what they came for and they've moved on. If they need us, we'll still be here for them, and we'll be here for newcomers too. It's comparable to many students and faculty who enter and leave colleges each year. A college is not destroyed because of its transient population. Someday, I'll fade into obscurity as well, never to post another video again, and when I do, someone else will fill the gap. This argument over religion is one of the oldest known to man. Well, I desire a time when the majority of people have transcended a compulsion to believe in fables and myths and indoctrinate their children to do the same. We're not there yet, and the atheist community isn't likely to truly disband until we are.